Hello, everyone. This is Catherine O'Brien of Celtic College Consultants. Hopefully this webinar will work properly this time. I founded Celtic College Consultants in 2004 to serve families across the country as they worked with their teenage children to prepare for college, funding, admissions, goals, student preparation. Today we're going to talk about the Common Core state standards, which are now in 2015, many states are withdrawing from them. Other states are renaming them, but they are still the Common Core state standards, and the impact on college admissions. So we will take a look at the standards, particularly with the impact on college admissions. A little bit about me. As I mentioned, I started my firm in 2004. I'm based in San Diego, and I work with families nationwide. In fact, I work with expats as well. So I have families from Australia to Germany whose students are American and are headed toward American universities. I have a bachelor's degree in industrial engineering from Northwestern University and a master's degree in Catholic theology from Franciscan University of Steubenville. I've been a certified college planning specialist since 2009, and I belong to a number of professional organizations in my field, all of which have ethical standards, which is as good as it gets in this field, which is not yet regulated. Additionally, I've been homeschooling for 17 years at all levels, from kindergarten to 12th grade, and that has certainly taught me a great deal about handling different kinds of students and subjects, and curriculum, options, a number of things. So without further ado, let's continue on. Today we're going to talk about what Common Core is, its various impacts a little bit, and primarily we're going to talk about the impacts on college admission specifically, and then a little bit on assistive services. So the Common Core standards are standards for American schools from kindergarten to 12th grade for English and math. They've been adopted by over 40 states at this point. As I mentioned at the very beginning, that's been shifting a little bit. Some states are dropping them, withdrawing, slowing down. Other states are renaming them and integrating them more fully into their academic educational system. The goal of the Common Core standards is career and college readiness. And even the advocates and supporters of the Common Core standards admit that what they mean is community college readiness, vocational school readiness, and an ability to get a job as a high school graduate. This is not a set of standards designed for four-year universities preparation. The standards do call for either the Smarter Balanced or the PARCC computerized testing that is integral to the standards. As you may or may not be aware, the standards have been hotly debated by many across the country, including 130 Catholic university scholars who firmly oppose them on academic grounds. And they have a letter that you can find on the internet, which they wrote to all the bishops in the country. And they did that because many Catholic schools were following the state standards in which they found themselves, and so we're adopting the Common Core standards, and they saw that as being significantly problematic, both to students' development in preparation for university as well as Catholics, and specifically to some topics that are particular to Catholic students. The Common Core standards at this point in time, in summer of 2015, are not adopted in Alaska. The math standards are not in Minnesota. Nebraska doesn't have any of the standards. Texas, Indiana, Oklahoma, Virginia, Puerto Rico, and South Carolina have also not adopted the Common Core standards. So we do not have a national standard in the United States. This is as close as we've ever gotten. Some people are very opposed to having a national standard for various reasons. Other people think that that uniformity would be really helpful. A couple of quotes. This is from an article by the Dean of the School of Education at the University of California at Davis. And this is what it says. What will be characteristic of Common Core students entering college are learning experiences featuring more inquiry-based learning and collaborative problem solving, sequenced skills by grade level, and learning across the curriculum, and more hands-on work. In addition to the essential skills in math, students will focus on conceptual math, that is, understanding the reasoning behind the correct problem solution rather than the algorithm. They will also have experienced applying mathematical concepts to real-world problems and will have been focused on fewer subject areas. Finally, students will be used to testing on computers and, in states with testing developed by the Smarter Balanced Assessment Consortium, testing that is adaptive. These are not likely to be the skill sets or course-taking experiences called for in the majority of today's college-level freshman and sophomore classes. Rather, these tend to be large enrollment, minimally interactive, and textbook-based. For the sciences, there is likely to be a lab section, but as an adjunct to the lectures, and where the experiments have known outcomes. Memorization of materials in the arts and sciences at the college level is critical to performing well on tests, as is performing procedures. The article goes on to cite the National Science Foundation, the Mathematical Society, and Modern Language Association, all of which call for not a change in these untested brand new standards for K-12, but they call for changes in undergraduate teaching. So let me discuss some of the parts of what this dean has to say. And this is from April of 2015. So the outcomes of students having an education based on the Common Core standards, more inquiry-based learning, collaborative problem solving, so a lot more group interaction work, which in the real world in many fields is what's happening. You have projects, you are working with a group, there has to be effective communication, everyone needs to do their part. That's a vastly different experience on the professional adult level than it is in a K-12 situation where you've got a lot of immaturity and lack of accountability, and there's no consequence like getting fired like there is in the real world, the professional world, for not doing your work. So you will find what many of us have experienced throughout our educational time. Some of us hating group projects because a few people do all the work, or one person does all the work and everyone gets the credit, or nobody does the work and everyone gets a penalty. So there is an application to professional work that's important, but there's also limitations of child abilities. Learning across the curriculum is interdisciplinary learning. In the 80s and 90s, when a lot of us parents were going to school, interdisciplinary studies and situations really weren't happening until graduate school. Now, in the better schools, it's happening undergraduate. Our learning has advanced in so many different fields that interdisciplinary considerations are commonplace. So to bring this down into the K-12 realm is not an unreasonable thing, but the students do need to have a fundamental grasp of all the disciplines in play so that they can have those interdisciplinary conversations, explorations, learning events. On the math side, students will focus on conceptual math, that is, understanding the reasoning behind the correct problem solution rather than the algorithm. For most of us, the teachers would explain the mathematical thing that they were teaching us, and they would explain why it worked that way. And then we would go on and memorize and really get a solid mastery of whatever the concept was that they were teaching us. We didn't spend our time focused on their explanation for why it was that way. So in many cases, the brighter kids in the class grasped why whatever the concept was true, how it had developed, where it had come from. But the whole class and the focus of the class was on whatever that concept was that was being presented and mastering using it in various settings. And now the shift is to understanding the concept and the reasoning behind it as opposed to the concept. A lot of people are decrying this because the students are not going to be knowing the concepts as well. And there also is a great push for learning in a whole bunch of different modalities the same thing so that they can arrive at an answer to a multiplication problem in 4 or 5 or 6 different ways. They can understand it all those different ways, but they don't have their times facts memorized. So they're not efficient about this at all. That's going to be very problematic when they get to timed tests in preparation for college and they get to higher math, because you need to have those things memorized and be able to handle a lot of the simple math very quickly in order to get through the complex math in a reasonable amount of time. And then testing on computers, that's already happening. The graduate record exam is already on the computer, and it is adaptive. So what adaptive means on the GRE, for example, is you'll have verbal sections and mathematical sections. Depending on your score of the first of those sections, they will give you different sets of questions for the second set. So if I do really well on the first verbal portion of the test, then I will get the advanced verbal portion or selection for the second portion of the verbal, because there's more than one, like on the SAT, there's more than one section of the verbal, the writing and reading part of the test. The same for the math. If I do really well on the math, then I'll get the advanced one. If I don't, then I'm going to get a lesser one. If I do really bad, I'm going to get a lesser one, which limits my score. So if I do mediocre on that first verbal, I can't get a perfect score. I can't get a top score, because the second portion of that test is going to be not the top portion. It's going to be the one down. And so my top score, even if I get everything right in that second part of the test, is going to be lower than the perfect score. Some tests do this on a per question basis. And so as you get them right, the next question gets harder and harder and harder until you start to get them wrong, and then they get easier, and they kind of go back up and down until they are at a level where, I guess, you're alternating, getting one right, getting one wrong. So it's at showing your level of proficiency. For some students, that's very distressing. For everyone, that's a little bit unnerving, because there's no sense that you're doing really well, because they're going to take the really bright kid and keep going until they get to beyond what they know, and they're going to start getting things wrong, and they're going to keep hitting that ceiling of what they don't know and getting things wrong. And the same thing is going to happen with the student who's not as proficient in that area. They're going to do all the correct ones until they start getting things wrong, and then they're going to keep hitting their ceiling. But what they're not going to be aware of is that their ceilings are in 2 different places. So this might be discouraging for the brighter students. It actually might be discouraging for everyone. No one really likes to get answers wrong or to be faced with enigmas they just can't penetrate. And then I thought it was interesting, his second paragraph comment here about this very skill set coming out of Common Core not being what you're going to find in a large university, which is where most students go. And that's true, but then the upshot of the article was to call undergraduates teaching to change, not the Common Core standards to change. So I find that quite interesting that we have a dean of education at a major university saying that undergraduate teaching needs to change, not untested, brand new, not written by educator standards. So that is part of the conversation. Okay, Common Core and the ACT and the SAT. Quotation from the ACT's website. The ACT is pleased to have played a leading role in the development of the Common Core standards. And then after assessing over 256,000 high school students, which were not limited to college aspirants. So what they do in certain schools, the district will ask them to give the ACT to all of their students. Okay, but when you sign up for those national testing dates, those are just kids who are thinking about going to college. So this is assessments of high school students, whether or not they wanted to go to college. They just were attending these various high schools in 2010. Quote, across all Common Core domains, strands, and clusters, only 1/3 to 1/2 of the 11th grade students are reaching a college and career readiness level of achievement. And then because I have been to graduate school, so I understand about presenting research and justifying what you're saying, I shared the ACT Readiness Benchmarks, the minimum scores for those students to have about a 75% chance of getting a C or better in a college course, or a 50% chance of getting a B or better. Okay, an English score of 18, a math score of 22, a reading score of 21, science score of 24, and a writing score of 7. Those were those benchmark scores that they were looking for those 11th grade students to have, and finding that only 1/3 to 1/2 of them had those scores. Those are low scores, 18, 22, 21, 24 to 7. That's going to be a composite score of 21, 22. It's not very high, okay? But that's what they were looking for, and they're only 1/3 to 1/2 of the kiddos were getting that. So that is what that is. But the ACT, the bottom line here, the ACT played a leading role in the development of the Common Core standards. They actually took their own standards and donated them, so to speak, to the Common Core Standards Committee as they were building their standards. And then on the SAT side, the relationship there is the head of the Common Core group, David Coleman, now heads the College Board. So we see that both the ACT and the SAT are very closely aligned with the Common Core. And then at the community colleges, to see the interplay between the Common Core and the community colleges, there are more than 100 colleges in California, 10 in Hawaii, 24 in Oregon, 49 in Washington, and 6 in South Dakota, using the Smarter Balanced Assessment as a placement exam. And then 4 Delaware colleges will accept the Smarter Balanced Assessment in lieu of other placement exams. So they have options there. So some states are experimenting with testing options to determine community college readiness. So they are, in many cases, just adopting the Common Core testing. 100 colleges in California, most of those are community colleges. Okay, they're using them as the placement exam. They always use, in the California community colleges, they use a placement exam in English and in math. And you have to qualify to get into various level courses. But I see them using the Smarter Balanced Assessment. So we're seeing an impact here. If we want to go to community college, we're going to have to be able to do the Common Core-based testing well in order to place at the proper level. Okay, so let's take a look at the Common Core standards and the 4-year college and university admissions. So firstly, to give a little background, admissions has about 20 factors that they look at, and depending on the school, they're a little bit different. Some are very number crunchy, and they, what are your scores and your grades, and they don't look at very much. And there's others that will use all 20 factors, okay? But overall, 70% of the assessment in the admissions office is on the academics, and 30% is on activities. And I just wanted to make sure that that was the framework you're working at. So it's common sense that most of college admissions decisions are going to be based on academics. That makes sense, because college is, after all, for education. So your academic performance and history is the most significant. Okay, we do have over 850 colleges and universities are test optional or test flexible. What that means is, in order to apply to these schools, you don't need to submit a test score, an SAT score or an ACT score at all. And this is not just poor schools. These are some excellent schools. This includes over 165 schools ranked in the top tier of their category. And more than 1/3 of the top-ranked national liberal arts colleges are test optional. This number is expected to grow, and it has been consistently growing. And some of the schools have histories of being test optional going back to the 1960s. So it's not a completely new phenomenon, but it is a significantly growing phenomenon. So after assessing what's going on with testing, what you're doing with your curriculum, what's the right situation for your student, you may decide to go look for test optional schools. But I wanted to make sure that everyone knows that these exist. Test flexible means that they will accept them, but they're not required. And it gives some options to the students. And depending on what their grades were or other things, it's helpful for some students to present those scores to validate their homeschooling curriculum, for example, or to demonstrate that they were more capable than what maybe their grades in a semester show, or something like that. And then I did share a quotation here on the slide from Bob Schaefer. He is the director of Fair Test. And he says, admissions offices don't need the SAT, old or new. A recent major report found that test optional policies promote academic quality while increasing enrollment of first generation and other low income students. So clearly it's a very valid way to do admissions, to completely omit SAT and ACT scores. Now, most admissions are requiring SAT and ACT scores. So let's look at, since 70% of the admissions decision is driven on the academics, what are the credentials that you present in a typical application? Your GPA and your transcript, your class rank. They're going to see your academic challenge, which means, if your school had 24 AP classes and you took 2 of them, they'll know that. If your school had 2 AP courses and you took 2 of them, they'll know that. So that's the challenge. How much did you challenge yourself? How much did you press yourself to take harder courses that were available to you? What are your grade trends? They do look at that. A lot of students don't do very well during their freshman year, or at least their first semester freshman year, and then they get better. So the colleges will look at that. Their test scores, which includes SAT scores, ACT scores, AP scores, IB scores, CLEP scores. It also includes SAT subject test scores, which I omitted on here. So there's a lot of different ways students have to present their academic credentials. But as you see, the testing is a big piece of it. So let's take a look at that. This is per the National Association for College Admissions Counseling, which is a professional organization of independent counselors like me, people that work for students and their families, high school counselors and college counselors in admissions. And this, as I mentioned before, when you're doing research and presenting positions, showing some data is important to justify your position. So the top couple of things, and I realize that in expanding this to the whole slide, it's a little bit fuzzy, but I think it's very readable. The considerable importance of grades in college prep courses, considerable to moderate importance, is 96% of the schools. Strength of curriculum, here we're looking at 88%. Admissions scores, here we're looking at 89%. Grades in all courses, 82%. List this as moderate or considerable importance. Okay, then you go to the essay or writing sample. Okay, and that is, we're down at 63%. So the big drop at that point. So you can see that the grades in college prep courses, the strength of curriculum, admissions test scores, and grades in all the courses are the most significant factors by far over all the colleges. Okay, so let's take a look at the tests. The ACT has changes which already started in May of 2015. For their state and district administration, but not the national one, they are doing computer administrated tests. That means that the students are taking it statewide or school district wide as perhaps the high school exit exam that's happening in a lot of places, are taking it on computer. The students are signing up at a certain test date to take the ACT on their way to college. They are not taking it on the computer yet. It's still on paper. The ACT is a curriculum-based assessment that measures student readiness, and it will still be aligned to validated ACT college readiness standards and benchmark, which is circular talk, since they use their college readiness standards and benchmarks and gave them to the Common Core standards people to help them make those standards, and now they're saying they're still validating to the ACT standards. It's Common Core aligned, okay? It was very interesting to see, especially with the discussion, shall we say, across the country about the Common Core standards and their popularity and their lack of popularity, their complete people being very opposed to them, that neither the ACT nor the SAT say openly that they're Common Core aligned, but they are, okay? And the ACT has consistently adjusted itself incrementally to both the high school standards and what the colleges are requiring as far as student readiness. So the ACT doesn't do big, huge changes. It does incremental, small changes. The ACT composite score of 21 is average, 36 is the top score. There are still Starting in September of 2015, we're going to have some changes. We're still going to have the 4 component scores of English, math, reading, science. You'll still have a writing score. Then they're going to give 2 hybrid scores, English language arts and STEM, and then 11 domain sub-scores, for example, rhetorical skills or ideas and analysis. The colleges, as they have been able to, will continue to be able to see your essays and the essay grader remarks. The colleges are also going to receive an overall GPA chances of success on their score report that the student doesn't receive. In the writing section, while it's changing in September, okay, the current ACT writing test is classical persuasion. Here's a position, yay or nay, and why. The enhanced writing test will present students with a rhetorical purpose that's more broadly argumentative. It's designed to better measure students' ability to evaluate multiple perspectives on a complex issue and generate an argument based on reasoning, knowledge, and experience. It's a completely different exercise. Let's look at the reporting. So to the colleges, it's a whole page, okay, and I only am highlighting one portion of it. And this is from the ACT website, so it's false data, okay? It's just a sample so everyone can see what the report's going to look like. But you see in this corner of the report to the colleges, you have overall GPA chances of success. So for this, and they have student group by traditional colleges inside the university. So College of Education, Business Administration, Liberal Arts, or Engineering. And then the first column, chances of getting a B or better, chances of getting a C or better. So you see if the student, Ann Taylor's the made-up name, was going for engineering, she's got a lousy chance of doing very well. Okay? And then they have a second column that they give of specific courses which are common to freshmen and her chances of getting a B or better or a C or better. So this is pretty useful information, and it's tied into the colleges that she's putting on her report. So for example, if I'm at ABC College, I'm going to get these chances based on our standards and criteria. And so if she's applying to 5 different colleges, this portion of the test report is going to be different for each college. It's going to be specific to each college. So it's going to give me in admissions a great chance to see the ACT's assessment of how well she's likely to do on my campus. So the ACT is very much getting into what admissions evaluates and projects out by doing this. Okay, starting in September 2015, we can't do anything about it. And then, the high school report for the same student, it gives, and these are all made up universities, so don't try to look them up, but it gives information about the schools, which is just fine. But then over on the right, the student's relative rank at the college. So it's for their particular college, or their English score, their math score, their reading score, their science score, and their composite score. That's really helpful information. So you can see, for example, the University of Omega on the top right, they have a 58% rank. So there are 42% of the students who took it who did better than the student did. That's really helpful to know. And as a parent or as a student taking this, I'd love to know that. Having that particular bit of data specific to my exact little score to help me decide which schools I'm going to apply to. For here, Beta Community College, I'm at the 85th percentile, much better place, but I still have 15% of the kids are higher than me. So in some ways, I'm not a strong student. And in this particular case, this student did not do very well in the math portion at all. And her initial thought of a major is accounting. So there's another piece to admissions of a lack of self-awareness that the student is showing, that she would think she could be a math major, but she doesn't have very good math skills. Okay, but again, this goes to the high school. So if you're homeschooled, you should get this to the homeschool parent, but the high school counselors are going to get this, and it's up to their discretion whether they show it to the students or not. So if you've heard this and you're taking this and you go to a regular high school, I would certainly ask your counselor to see the high school report, because this is very useful information. And then what the students get, which I thought was very interesting. Okay, same colleges, they give you the middle 50% of scores, which not all parents even know what that is. So at the very bottom says the composite score for the student was 21. And they give these middle 50% ranges for all the colleges, but they don't tell you what that means. So I will tell you what it means. The middle 50% of scores means that 25% of the students got above the highest score, and the 25% of the students got below the lowest score. So for University of Omega, 25% of the kids got a 25 or better on the ACT, and 25% of the kids got 17 or lower on the ACT. The student has a 21. They are sitting right smack in the middle 50% for this school. If I remember right from that other chart, it was 58%. So they're right there in the middle. Okay, the high school class rank, they'll give that, which that's pretty straightforward. Everybody's going to know what that means. So this student looks really good on that part. GPA, the student looks fabulous on that part, which tells you that their school inflates grades compared to other schools because her scores are low. So there's a disparity there. But this is the information they're giving to parents. It's pretty vague. That other information on the high school and the college reports was very, very clear. And then they give you this tuition and fees and financial aid information, which is helpful, but really has nothing to do with what the ACT does, which is academic assessment. So I am very disappointed to see these reports being so different, the student not getting all the information that the college or even the high school gets, and not having access, not even knowing that that information is about them is being sent out to these other entities. And then to see the student report full of financial aid data, which is not the purview of the ACT at all. I would love to see the ACT change this report so that the academics are showing, just like they're showing to the high school and the colleges. But that change is starting in September 2015. So to summarize on the ACT, it's Common Core aligned, more detailed score report with numerous subscores. And I didn't show all of that. I showed the thing I thought was most significant. If you want to see the full score reports, if you go to the ACT website, you can see it. I'll go back a page, act.org/AAP/PDF college-report.pdf is the site to see the reports. They give a college success rating in college and high school versions of the score report. And then for state and district administrations of the test, they're beginning to be offered on computer. So let's take a look at the SAT. Through January 2016, the SAT is not changing. Still has 3 sections, critical reading, math, and writing, 800 points each, 2,400 is a perfect score. That's been going on for about the past decade. We're all used to it now. That's going to change starting in the March 2016 sitting. So one thing to make sure that you're aware of if you're planning to take it this fall, the June 2016 sitting had a printing error in it, and so students' scores were significantly impacted because they didn't get to take it all correctly, and scores were dropped for certain sections for everyone. So all of those students are eligible to take it again in October for free from the College Board. So the October 2015 sitting should be very full. The January 2016 sitting is the very last sitting of the current SAT. So that gives you the October 3rd, November 7th, and December 5th, and January 23rd sittings are the last ones of the current SAT. And then starting March 5th will be the redesigned SAT. It's going to have 2 sections. The writing score is going away, so 1,600 will be the perfect score again, just like when we parents were in school. And they'll have evidence-based reading and writing and the math section. There'll be many, many subscores. So let's take a look at this. In the evidence-based reading and writing section, they're going to have a reading subscore, a writing and language subscore, and you can see the score ranges there on the screen. They're going to have these cross tests to try and give some information or insight to the colleges on their science aptitude and their history and social studies aptitude. And they're basing this on having different sections of the test, having different samples of reading in the different fields. And so they're going to extrapolate from that to show what you know in science. How valid that's going to be is anybody's guess. They're test makers, they think it's going to be valid. So here's hoping, right? The essay, which is optional, will have 2 raters as usual, each scoring between 1 and 4 on 3 different areas: reading, analysis, and writing. In the math section, you're going to have sub-scores in the heart of algebra, which they don't define anywhere. Passport to advanced math, they don't really define that either. And problem solving and data analysis. But they're going to give you 3 sub-scores in math. In the writing area, they're going to give you 4 sub-scores. Expression of ideas, standard English conventions, which is grammar, right? Relevant words and context, so there's your vocabulary, and command of evidence. How well do you support your positions? So those, at least we know what those 4 mean. The math ones, we're not exactly sure what they mean. And I do have an engineering degree, so I speak math, but SAT doesn't give enough information. So the SAT is Common Core aligned. Starting, I'm sorry, it says September 15th. It should be March 2016. There's going to be 2 scores, the maximum of 1,600, and then the more detailed score report with all the sub-scores. And the revamped essay is now going to be 50 minutes because they're actually going to give you a topic. They're going to give you 3 positions on the topic, and then your job is to take a position and so you need a thesis statement related to the overall topic, but in your paragraphs, you need to address the 3 different perspectives that are offered. This is exactly what the advanced kids were doing. The kids who were getting the 10 to 12 scores on their essays were doing this, but they were pulling those examples out of literature and history and other places. Now they're giving those perspectives to everyone, and you have to fold those into your essay in a coherent fashion. Come up with a thesis of a position, yay or nay, whatever your position is, and put it together well. And it's 50 minutes long. So it's a much longer test overall because the essay is longer. Okay, let's take a look at the AP scores, also offered by the College Board. The AP courses and tests are aligned to the Common Core standards as well. In a professional conference, AP called AP and the Common Core era, changes and new developments in the AP program. Trevor Packer, the senior VP of the College Board's AP program, told school superintendents at this conference, so this was a conference for superintendents of schools, that his organization would integrate Common Core standards in AP course standards and AP exams administered each May. At this time, it looks like all of them have been adjusted to the Common Core. Okay. Let's look at International Baccalaureate. Here's what they have to say on their website. The IB welcomes the CCSS Common Core State Standards as a state-led initiative to enhance student success beyond high school. The IB continues to work with its community of schools to meet the high expectations of the CCSS. So the International Baccalaureate people are open arms to the Common Core standards. CLEP. The College Board also offers a set of tests parallel to the AP called CLEP. These initially were called Dante and were for the military veterans to have a way to demonstrate the knowledge that they had accumulated while they were serving, and then they've come to be known as the CLEP. So these are primarily used by veterans, adult learners who are going back to school, and homeschoolers. But because they test college-level material, the Common Core standards are for K-12. They're not aligned with Common Core standards. So we do have a set of tests, which has, I believe, 22 different tests in many different areas. You can look on the College Board site, and they don't have a tab for the CLEP tests, even though they're their set of tests. So if you go to collegeboard.org, go to their little search box, and put in CLEP, you will find a whole series of pages on the website with overall information on the CLEP tests, as well as all the different courses or topics that they're offered on, and the breakdown, just like they do on the AP, so you know what percentage of the test is on this subject and that subject of all the sub-subjects inside, say, the biology, you know, how much is genetics and how much is cellular biology, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, so that you can see what exactly is covered on the exam. CLEP tests are available year-round. They're computer-based, and they're available at many sites around the world, and they are not Common Core aligned. And dual enrollment. So in case you're not familiar with this, some high school students who are functioning at an advanced level will take college classes while they were still high school students. And because Common Core standards are for K to 12, the college courses are not aligned with the Common Core standards. The only exception to this, I would think, is in states, in some places, the community college also offers high school level classes for remediation. And in states that heavily have their high school students taking community college courses, they may have them aligned in those circumstances so that they fit in with the rest of the high school curriculum, but you would need to check. But in general, college courses are not Common Core aligned because the Common Core standards are K to 12. Okay. So a summary, because we had all those different ways we could present our academic achievements to admissions, the impact of Common Core on that process. The ACT, the SAT, the AP, and the IB tests are all Common Core aligned. The CLEP tests are not, and 2,900 colleges accept CLEP. Dual enrollment courses are not, and nearly all colleges accept transfer credits. Every single college and university has their own policy on all of these tests, so you'll need to look at it. And as you recall from the beginning, approximately 70% of admissions criteria are academics related. So the impact of the Common Core state standards on college admissions is significant, since most of the ways to present your academic credentials are courses, which unless you are homeschooling or at a private school that has not adopted Common Core, or in one of those states that has not adopted Common Core, all your courses are going to be Common Core. And even if you're in a place where your curriculum is not Common Core aligned, all the testing except for CLEP tests is Common Core aligned. So there are the test optional schools, there are the CLEP tests, but the impact on college admissions of the Common Core state standards is very high, very significant. A little bit about how I can help you. I provide comprehensive college planning services, which includes premier student preparation, savvy college selection, and abundant funding. My class of 2015 students were offered over $255,000 each in merit scholarships on average. The year before did not fully report to me what they got, but from what they did report, I know they got at least $133,000 each on average in merit scholarships. So the suite of strategies that I use to prepare students to apply for college, to apply, to select their schools, and the rest of it works. The results have been significant. In some, on average, my recent clients invested between $3,750 and $5,250 total in my consulting services, and that's not that they paid me, at one lump sum, but I worked with them for a year or 2 years, and that would be the total of what they paid. And their children, for these same clients, were awarded between $36,000 and $653,000 in merit scholarships. There's not anywhere else in the world that you can turn $4,000 into $36,000 even. Okay, so the return on investment just on the financial side for my clients in general has been fabulous. There are some options of ways you can work with me. My premier one-on-one student prep services includes maximizing your financial aid eligibility, doing your career search, your student preparation, campus visit preparation and how to do that and record your results and all of that. How to create achievement resumes so that you're prepared for admissions. You know how to present your credentials to admissions. College selection, that's an enormously important piece. Finding scholarship money, walking through the application preparation process, the financial aid application process. I actually file those just like a CPA files your taxes. I file the financial aid applications. Final college selection. So after you've been accepted, you've gotten all your financial aid awards, I assess them all. I help you through any negotiation process, all of that, so that you have all the data on the table, apples to apples comparison of how much it's really going to cost at all the different schools, then can make your final decision. So to start that, you would schedule a consultation. If you go to my website, CelticCollegeConsultants.com, there's a link there to schedule a consultation. I take a very limited number of students per class, and my fees vary between $250 and $650 a month. So the later you start, the more expensive it is because I have a lot more to do and a lot much more brief time. Okay, another way for me to assist you is I have online courses. So the foundation course is designed to go freshman and sophomore year. It's designed to be repeated, actually, and it's focused on the career and college search and the basic fundamental skill development that students need to be successful as adults. The junior course is focused on refining your college search, getting you through the testing, preparing to present your credentials in the application season, which starts in the senior course, which starts the day after you finish junior year. So it actually starts in June after junior year is finished, because application season opens. The Universal College app is open July 1st. The Common App is open August 1st. One of my students has a college this year that their application season opened June 15th. So starting in the summer after junior year is what should happen. It's not atypical. Some students don't do that, and they're behind the 8 ball, because in this particular arena, the early bird does get the worm, both in admissions and financial aid. Okay, so I use the same principles in my online courses. I walk you through. There's you have a year's access. There's 10 courses, 10 videos per course. I also have my College Prep Toolkit books that you get, how to do resumes, how to do campus visits, how to write the essays for the SAT and ACT. I'm going to be revising that since the essays are changing, etc. Everything that you would need written down, it's there. And then the model of the courses is not like a high school class where we're going to meet 3 times a week, but it's like the consulting work that I do. So it's designed for 1 a month, and I will give parents things to do, students things to do, and here's how to do, and I will walk you through month to month through the entire process. So all the courses are a year long. There's 10 classes per course. And again, on my website, Celtic College Consultants, if you go under services, the online courses are there with all of the description of what's in each one and a link so that you can order it and get started. A third option is to create your own one-on-one package or hire me hourly. Any combination of my services can be selected if you drop me an email at kob@celticcollegeconsultants.com. I will send you a sheet of all the services I offer and how much they are each. And it happens regularly that I will have a family that says, I really need to focus on this area or that area. We really need your expertise here right now. And we'll do that. Sometimes we're doing some things on an ad hoc basis. My hourly rate is $250 an hour. That's middle. It's probably about 70% in the range of hourly rates. So I'm not the most expensive and I'm not the cheapest. But that shouldn't be the only criteria. Right fit for you and outcome should be your criteria. So how do you get started? To schedule a 1-hour private family Skype consultation or sign up for classes today, go to my website, CelticCollegeConsultants.com. The consultation fee is $250, $150 of which will be applied to subsequent consulting fees. Thank you very much for coming. I hope that this was very enlightening for you to see, especially for homeschoolers and others at private schools who are not using Common Core standard curriculum in the classes. Forgive me if you're hearing background noise. My sons are at the other end of the house doing something. But to see how that's impacting college admissions, to see what needs to be done. Because in the schools that are not using Common Core-based curriculum, unfortunately, we need to supplement with serious test prep or something else in order to present our credentials, unless we're going to limit ourselves and go to the test optional schools, which for some students is a fabulous way to go. Others, they're not going to have what you want to do. But even in engineering, there a lot of liberal arts colleges are fabulous foundations for engineering programs, and they have dual degree programs. So I would explore that if that's something that appeals to you at all. And their students are very wanted. So you'll want to look at my blog, go to my website and go look at my blog. I just wrote on that particular topic. Thank you again for coming, and have a great day. And I wish you all the best of success on your journey to college.